No matter what country you visit on this planet, you can bet that there are teams of scientists looking for ways to build more powerful and advanced weaponry. History has seen some incredible inventions, from the atomic bomb to the stealth fighter. It has also seen some very unique weapons, like the German railway gun of the 1930s that measured 155 feet in length and could hit a target over 28 miles away. However, there have also been some truly ridiculous military inventions over the years that have only served as an example of what not to do. From Japanese balloon bombs to missile tests that went horribly wrong, here are 5 military weapons that failed miserably. Dropping artillery from high altitudes has been a method of warfare for decades. Bombers are some of the most feared aircraft in any fleet. During World War II, America waged a fierce war in the Pacific against Japan. In 1942, bombers dropped explosives over the city of Tokyo, taking the lives of many and doing tons of damage. Of course, the Japanese were not going to take this lying down and wanted to retaliate. However, their idea of retaliation was much sneakier and creative. They knew they needed to drop bombs, but also knew they didn't have the capabilities to hit the United States mainland. To counter this problem, the Japanese decided it best to strap incendiary devices onto huge balloons, launch them high up into the jet stream, and let the wind carry them over to the United States. The goal was to have the bombs timed to drop so that wherever the bombs landed, there would be huge wildfires sparked. In total, there were about 9,000 balloons released in 4 days. They traveled a long way, and the vast majority of them ended up in the Pacific Ocean. However, some actually did make it, going everywhere from Alaska down to Arizona. One even made it as far east as Michigan. As you can imagine, it was overall a very ineffective campaign. However, there were some casualties, and they all came from one balloon. In the town of Bly, Oregon, a balloon landed in the forest that was close to a park. At this park were a minister, his pregnant wife, and 5 children from their church. When one of them happened upon the bomb and the rest came to see, it exploded and killed the wife, her unborn child, and the 5 children. It was decided not to release the information to the public, as the news could reach the ears of the Japanese and encourage more bombings. But out of 9,000 bombs, only 1 did any damage, and it was to innocent civilians. It was quite a large and costly failure. One of the biggest objectives that any military has is to deliver as much damage as possible while at the same time safeguarding the lives of their own soldiers. So many times, unmanned vehicles are used to deliver things like explosives into enemy territory. Drones are a prime example of these. Back in World War II, British forces were tasked with developing a device that could penetrate the 10-foot or 3-meter-high defenses that made up the Atlantic Wall. The device also had to be capable of being launched from the ocean. What they developed would later be known as the Great Panjandrum. This contraption was basically a rocket-powered assault wheel that was designed to carry an explosive charge right into the enemy lines. The design itself wasn't anything spectacular. It's just 2 wheels, an axle, a rocket that propels it forward, and the bomb. Despite security concerns, tests commenced in 1943 right on public beaches and in front of many spectators. The rockets were ignited and the device took off from the landing craft and onto the beach. But each time tests were done, the device would simply lose control. More rockets were used to try and solve this problem, but it was to no avail. Despite this, development continued with more rockets and a 3rd wheel. When this failed, the 3rd wheel was removed and a steel cable was attached to try and help maintain course. After a failed final trial in front of admirals and generals almost resulted in serious injury to them all, the project was finally scrapped. In an age where it seems that we are always on the brink of nuclear war, having a strong deterrent is crucial. One of these deterrents is the Trident Missile. It's a weapon that's about 30 feet long, weighs in at about 60 tons, and can carry nuclear warheads with a destructive capacity of more than 8 times the energy of the bombs that were dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima during World War II. They can hit targets up to 4,000 nautical miles away and be accurate to within a few meters. They are an incredibly destructive weapon. Back on March 21, 1989, just off the coast of Florida, the USS Tennessee was testing one of these missiles. It was the first developmental underwater flight test of the Trident II D5 missile. The conditions that day were just right, and all the procedural steps were taken. Soon, a countdown began, and the missile was launched. But things almost immediately took a turn for the worse. Instead of launching high into the sky, the Trident II failed and started spinning in circles right above the USS Tennessee, which was stationed right below the surface. After a few seconds, the missile crashed back down into the water. An investigation immediately went underway to determine what had happened, and it was discovered that the fault actually had to do with the plume of water that followed the missile as it launched. Water got caught in the nozzle of the rocket as it attempted to ignite, and that ultimately led to its failure. Knowing this, the military quickly resolved the problem, and future tests were a success. Various guns have been developed over the years in order to fulfill a number of different types of jobs. Shotguns are great for close range, sniper rifles for long range, and everything else in between. But it has always been a bit of a running joke in many circles that you can't shoot around corners, at least in a literal sense. Well, no one told that to the Germans in World War II because they worked on a gun called the Krummlauf, and it was most recognizable for its curved barrel. Yep, you heard us right. The gun had a curved barrel. It was made to let a soldier shoot from around a corner while maintaining a safe position. It even came with a periscope sighting device. For anyone who knows anything about guns, it should have been clear from the beginning that this was a terrible idea. During testing, the military scientists realized this as well. For starters, the bent barrel attachments had incredibly short lifespans. You could only fire 300 rounds before you would have to change the barrel out. The stress of the bullets on the barrel was too much, and it would eventually lead to structure failure. Another problem was that the bending caused the bullets to shatter and exit the barrel in many small fragments. This created somewhat of a shotgun effect. Although this could prove to be deadly in some situations, it definitely wasn't what scientists were going for when they invented the Krummlauf. Designers experimented with small variations to see if anything could be done to save the gun. However, nothing practical was ever invented, and the gun was only ever used a few times before the idea was eventually abandoned. Let's go back to the topic of nuclear weapons. They can't really be discussed without talking about the Cold War. During the 1960s and 70s, tensions between the Soviet Union and the United States were very high. It seemed that the slightest mistake from either side could result in a bloody conflict. But this war was based around the fear of nuclear weapons, which each side had and were threatening to use. The military forces of both countries continued to find ways to experiment with nuclear weapons. One of the inventions that came during this time were known as atomic demolition munitions. To put it plainly, these were nuclear landmines. Now that sounds incredibly terrifying, but this is where the flaw really lies. The purpose of these mines was not to inflict injury and death, although they very well could. Rather, they were designed to be placed by military engineers in key places where the terrain was more accessible to invasion. Choke points like bridges, dams, and tunnels were vital. This brings us to Operation Blue Peacock. This project's goal was to place a bunch of these nuclear landmines along the North German plain. In case of a Soviet invasion, these devices could be detonated to destroy facilities and deny occupation due to the radiation. One major problem that this project faced was the extreme cold weather of winter months. This meant that it was possible for the mine's electronic components to become too cold to operate. This is when the chicken-powered nuclear bomb was proposed. Yes, chicken-powered. While this never came to fruition, the idea was that the chickens could be sealed inside the casing with enough food and water to remain alive for at least a week. Their body heat could then keep the mine operational. As you might guess, this idea was far too bizarre to ever be tried, and eventually the program as a whole was scrapped. Militaries have their fair share of blunders. Weird and crazy designs and poorly thought out strategies end up costing governments tons of money once they're taken out of production. Let's just hope that future developments work a bit better than the devices on this list. To see more videos just like this one, be sure to click the link on screen now. As always, thanks for watching and tune in next time.